How many hours do you write each day? And what do you do when writer's block creeps in? I recently had the great opportunity of asking these questions to director Jorge Gutierrez, whom you may know for movies like The Book of Life and TV shows like El Tigre and Maya and the Three. I'm Pietro Schito from Write for Animation, the YouTube channel that helps you become a professional animation screenwriter. Hi Jorge, welcome to Write for Animation. It's great to have you here.
Pietro, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored. On El Tigre, when I was a younger man, I worked Saturdays and Sundays, and I would work late every night, right? It was my first TV show. I didn't have a kid, and I loved it, but it was killing me, right? I was getting sick all the time, and it was really hard. When we made Book of Life, I was sleeping 4 hours a night, and I was working most Saturdays, and Sundays were the only day off I had. And I would usually have dinner with my family and go back to work. So it was tough. On Maya, from the beginning, the producer I'm working with, Tim Yoon, who was also a producer on El Tigre, we're older. We have kids, and we're in our 40s. We're middle aged. So one of the things early on we decided was no work after dinner, no work on the weekends. Like, we are going to do this in a traditional 40-hour work week. Obviously, there were days that went a little long, but I didn't work at night. I worked on the weekends when there was an emergency, or, we had to do it on the weekend because there was no other day to do it. But I would say 99% of Saturdays and Sundays, I didn't work. So I become way more disciplined, and I become way smarter about focusing on working during working time. And for me, the pandemic was wonderful because I was wasting 15 hours of traffic every day driving to the studio. So I got those 15 hours back. So now I work more in less time and get to spend more time doing other things. But I'm in the US, it's 40 hours a week, right? That's the Guild, Animation Guild time. So I really try to focus on those 40 hours and spend them really well.
And what about the moments where you're just exhausted or you encounter writer's block?
Yeah, I mean, the reality of writer's block in television doesn't exist because the schedule won't allow you to have a writer's block. So you just write, and good or bad, you got to keep writing. And they're like the mafia, right? They're like, hey, I'm sick. I don't care. Where's my money? Like, that's how television works with writing. They just want their scripts. So you learn really fast that you just got to write. And when I say you just got to write, I mean, you got to grab onto an idea and then just jump in there. And, the Picasso saying is true. Inspiration exists, but it's going to find you working. It's not going to find you in the middle of the night. I mean, maybe it will, but most of the time it will find you while you're working. And then this is terrible, but it's my advice. I like deadlines, and I'm just like everybody else. I tend to think, oh yeah, I'm going to make it. And 2 or 3 days before the deadline, I'm freaking out. And I'm 46 now, and it still happens. Like, I still plan and I still do all the stuff, and it still gets really crunchy at the end. So when I realized that's just part of the process, then it freed me. And the other great thing about writing is, yes, it can always be better. Always. You just have to come to terms with, this is as good as it's going to be with the time allowed for now. But if I get more time, I get to make it better. And if you can go, this first draft is not the final draft. This is the first draft. I'm going to try a bunch of stuff. And there's some stuff in there that I'm not sure, but I need somebody else to read it and tell me if it's good. Come to terms with that. Second draft, you're starting to, polish and fix the big mistakes. Third draft, man, at that point, you should be polishing and making scenes that are good even better, making sure the ending, everything is hitting, making sure it all landed. And then that final draft, to me, from third to final, that final draft should be, I already know exactly what the movie is, and I'm just tightening little moments and figuring out what scenes drag too long or what scenes are not really, what scenes are cool but are not pushing things forward. How do I either take those out, or how do I move other stuff around it just to let that scene stay? Because I do think there's scenes that if you don't need but they're really cool, you can still have them as long as you make room for them.
What is your routine like? Your writing routine?
It's so funny. I'm a big Quentin Tarantino fan, as anybody can tell, and I read that Quentin Tarantino would get up late and then write all day, have dinner, and then get in his, I'm sure, gigantic pool and think about all the stuff he wrote. Next day, wake up and then basically do a rewrite based on what he thought of the night before, and then keep going, right? So I was like, I want to do that. So I on Book of Life, that's kind of how I wrote. I would write all day, have dinner, go into, we live in a building that had a pool, so we would go in the pool, and I would literally think about what I wrote. Next day, wake up, and then write. And I'm an 8-hour a day writer. I know some people write a lot more than that, or a lot less. It takes me a while. I need 4-hour chunks. So I would do 4 lunch, 4 dinner, or I would do 3 lunch, 5 dinner, right? And when I say I'm writing, I'm not like writing. Like, a lot of writing is research. So I'm writing something and I'm going, in this movie they did something similar. So I would look up that movie and I would watch that moment and go, oh yeah, that's not at all what I remember, and then keep going. So like, I do a lot of that. So I have a ton of movies, all the streaming services ready, and I will also look up other scripts, because I will go, okay, so this fight, I'm going to do that. Oh, I wonder how they wrote the fight in, I don't know, Aliens. So I will literally look up the script for Aliens, go to where that fight is, read that version, go, oh, and then write. Like, I use the internet as my springboard. The danger, as you know, is you can get sucked into the research, and you can get sucked into distractions. And, if I'm not careful, I'm like, literally watch a whole movie. So that's where the discipline comes from. And, I'm 46. So at this point, I got to be really smart about my time, and I got to be really smart about how I do things. But for example, the way I'm writing now, I'll have lunch, and then I write usually from 1 to 6 or 2 to 6. I've been doing 4 to 5 hour blocks. And then at dinner, I talk to my wife about all the stuff I wrote, and then I don't write anymore. After that, either, we have a pool, so I get in the pool and start thinking, or I put on movies and I just get lost in the movies, try not to think about it. Next day, I work out. I have a routine that I do. So I'll put on a movie while I'm working out. So I'm trying to work out my eyes and my brain while I'm doing exercise. And then I'm trying to problem solve. And depending on the genre of the movie I'm working on, I do that. So for example, for Maya, man, I watch Lord of the Rings, Seven Samurai, every Excalibur, King Arthur, like every giant epic that you can think of, Apocalypto, all these giant movies. And I would literally just put them on while I worked out, not consciously pay attention to them, but just watch them, because I'll put on music. So I'm just watching the filmmaking and the storytelling visually. But that's my new process, and it's working really well. I do a calendar schedule. I'm very lucky, and I have an assistant and I have a producer who keep me on time. And so they'll go, all right, these days we're blocking out all of the time you're writing. These are your meetings. These are all the other things you have to do. These are the deadlines, because I think without deadlines, we'd never finish anything. And so far, so good.
If you want to make it as a screenwriter, you have to find a routine that allows you to write constantly. To help you with that, we created the Write Everyday Challenge that you can download for free from the link in the description. Print it out and tag us at Writer Animation when you post on social media. so that we can celebrate your results with the community. Before you go, remember to like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell because we have more videos with Jorge Gutierrez. He will share about his creative process and the way he structured Maya and the Three, his epic TV show for Netflix animation. Thank you, Jorge. I'm Pietro from Write for Animation, and now go write something great.